Okay, everybody, well, welcome back. Today we're going to start Project 17. Probably be a three-part series here by the time we get it done. Going to focus today on the left and the right-hand cheek, but Project 17 is going to be a 45-degree angle with a square throat. Maybe I shouldn't say square throat, a 45-degree throat with a non-radius, and a 45, or what they consider a square back. So first page is going to show you how your project's going to be graded, size, seams, etc. Plus or minus an eighth of an inch. It says study instructions per plate number 22 on the next page here, which is this one. Just giving you some general layout with a paragraph or two here of layout procedure, numbers that correlate with the cheek pattern, the heel pattern, the throat, and the perspective view as well. But for today, we're just going to focus on the left hand and the right hand cheek pattern. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. So here's the drawing on the third page that we're going to be dealing with your actual dimensions that we're going to cut the part to. So what we're looking at is a 45-degree leaving area that measures 8 inches. 8-inch air inlet, 8 inches leaving by 8 inches in height there. So let's get into building that to start. I've already taken the time here to lay out and draw out the left-hand piece. Now I'm going to draw the reverse of the right-hand piece. Now you don't have to necessarily make a reverse pattern of this one because they're both identical. You should be able to turn them and flip it over and still have your left and right hand with regards to your 45. But I'll show you how to make the mirror image of it anyway, and hopefully we'll get it together without a hitch. So first things first, I'm going to start from the bottom, and if you'll notice, it's hard to get a layout here for this distance. So I'm going to start today from the left hand with my edge of my sheet, and then I'm going to measure to my right hand and then lay out these angles, 45s and 90s and things that are required to get that done. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my scribe, and on the bottom it says I need a 1/2 inch dimension for that mark. So let's mark that on both sheets, the left and the right, from the base all the way across. I'm going to follow that up by making the outer 1/4 inch dimension down the side. Now I'm going to make it the left hand identical to this one, and I'm going to mirror image it and make the right hand. So just kind of set it on at an angle here, grab the 1/4 inch, and all the way down that side. And now this one's got to be the mirror image of it. So versus on the left side, I'm going to put it on the right side. So I'm going to find my 1/4 inch again and lay that out down the sheet. The next thing that I'm going to tackle here, now that I've got my external of the sheet and my 1/4 inch dimension, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find this inner 1/4 inch dimension and establish point number 1, which it should be 8 inches from point 5 to point 1, or rather from the edge of the sheet 8 1/4 to point 1 and 8 1/2 for this extra 1/4. So let's lay that out next. I'm going to grab my tape measure, and if you look at this one, the same as the plan, I've got my 1/4 inch ready taken care of. So now I'm going to go over 8 1/4, and I'm going to make a mark, which I've already done, and then I'm going to add the additional 1/4 inch for the lock form, that edge that's required there, and set that at 8 1/2. So in between, when I get done bending them, I will have 8 inches right on the button. And then we got to do the same on this one here, but of the mirror image of it. So again, from the other direction, I need 8 1/4. So to give me an 8 inch opening, put the little crow's foot on there, and 8 1/2 with the other crow's foot. And then I'm going to mark those with my square. I'm going to take my square that you have, either a combination square like this one or a speed square, whatever you've got, and we're going to run those lines up a good distance. Let's start with this one that's identical to the plan there. I'm going to focus on my inside mark, and it says per the plan that I've got to go up 2 inches to find point number 2 here, which is right here, plus the additional 1/2 inch. So we're looking at 2 1/2 inches to the center per this plan. And I'm just going to run it beyond. I'm just going to run that up there a ways and establish my straight marks on this one to get point 2, because later on I'm going to need that distance up there anyway. I hope you can see that, sorry. here. We're going to later on need that distance to get that anyway. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to establish my 1/4 inch mark, and that one I'm only going to take up approximately 2.5 inches off the sheet right there. And then we'll make the mirror image on the other one. So we're looking at the inside, that's over here. This one's going to be going this way, this one's coming this way over here. So let's find our marks again. The inside one I'm going to take up there a ways. In the outside one I'm looking at about 2.5 inches, so about somewhere up in that area there. I know you probably can't see them there, but they're on there. And in between my marks, again, we should have 8 inches. I generally pull that out to the 12-inch mark and read the red marks for, the red lines, numbers there for a little better accuracy there. It's kind of hard to see on this one, so I'm going to put a little divot. I'm going to measure up 2.5 inches, make a mark on the inside, like I did on this one here. I measured up 2.5 inches, and then I used my scribe and put a small divot in the sheet just so I don't lose those marks. So right there, and I'm just going to put a little small pivot point in the sheet so I don't lose that. So I've got both of those. Now they've got to come at kind of the same direction toward each other to make the left and the right hand part. So we've got to establish our 45-degree angle. There's a few different ways you can do that. A simple way would maybe be use a combination square with the 45-degree angle and try to fit that in there so you get your 45-degree, but it's kind of cumbersome a little bit to set this one. So another route you can go is you can make a 90-degree angle using your dividers. I'll show you that method. And that's why I extended that line up higher here on that mark. So take your dividers, you set it out to any random size that won't run off your mark from your pivot point, and you scribe an arc here and here. Let me do it on both sheets. So scribe an arc on from my pivot point here and here. And then what I'm going to do, because it's a bisecting 180 degrees, I'm going to open them up to a larger random size. Bigger is better, as long as you don't get off the sheet. And we'll scribe my mark somewhere here, find my original point, and out here. And where they cross is going to be a 90-degree mark. So let's do that now. So they're heading this direction. We're going to bisect them somewhere out here, and then go to the other pivot point or the other mark, and we're going to make a crosshair arrow. Set my dividers aside, take my ruler from my original dimple I put in the sheet there, and find the crosshair out here, and I'm going to run that line out there a little ways. Now from here to here I should have my 90. It's kind of hard to see tonight, but there's my 90-degree mark, and then there's my there's my 180-degree line, and then there's my 90-degree mark. Now that I've got a 90-degree mark, what I want to do is I want to bisect it to find the 45, half of it. So again, with my dividers set to any random size that doesn't get off the line, bigger is better. I'm going to put a scribe mark here and a scribe mark down here. Now, as before, I made these bigger because we were at 180 degrees and I needed the distance. Because we're 90 here, I really don't necessarily have to adjust them. I just got to go to those 2 points, set it on my point, make an arc, go to the original point, and make that arc. Now, that will be my 45-degree angle from the 90, as long as I don't lose them here. There and there, and we'll run that out there ways. Now the question is, how far do we have to go? Well, we got to measure from our plan. It says 2 inches from there to there, from point 2 to 3, and then an additional ½ inch. We need 2.5 inches in length on that mark. So we can just simply measure that from our pivot point. I'll use the red numbers here. 2.5, and we'll mark it at 12, and then I'll back off and give you the 1/2 inch as well. Right there's your 2 inch, there's your 2.5 inch from that mark. I've already done it on here the exact same way. I found my 45s, bisected I found my 90 from the 180, and then bisected the 90 to get the 45 degree in this direction. After I've got my 45 degree, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure my additional 1/4 inch that I need for my lock form. So just simply take my tape measure. I'll try to pull it out to an even number for you. And we're going to measure back a 1/4 inch bigger on the sheet, and we'll do the same up here. Again, the further up you go, the more precise it'll be. Take your ruler, find your marks, and I get them lined up, and then we'll scribe that down. Okay, now I've got my, starting from the sheet on this one over here, got a lot of stuff on it again. If you recall, this one's headed up this direction, this sheet is headed up this direction is what we're looking for. So I've got my base lines set up here, got my 8 inch width, I've got my 1/4 inch on each side. Now we've got our 45 degree started this way, which is the mirror, so here's the 45 on this one. This one is the mirror image of that, measured up 2.5 inches to the edge of the sheet. Now I've got to take my inner line from point 2 to point 3, extend it beyond, and then bisect the 180 degree mark, or that 180 degree line to a 90, and pull that up this direction to establish point 4 up here, or whichever one you choose. You can do either one, it really doesn't matter. So let's do that now. So on this one right here is point number 3. In order to find that 180 degree bisected point, I just set my dividers to any length that didn't exceed my line. Bigger's better, more precise. Put an arc here, marked it, spun it around, and I found out, oops, it's too big. So let's reduce that a little bit. Set it back down here a little ways. Keep track of which pivot you were using. So there's my mark, my pivot point there. Spin it around, and there's my new pivot point. Because it's 180 degrees, I've got to make my dividers wider at this point in time. Bisect it, and there is my 90 degree point. And if you look really closely, you can see the lines crossed right there, right on my inner 1/2 inch mark. So let's do the same on this unit over here. So I've got to keep that somewhat small. I'm going to use the inside 1/2 inch mark. So I'm going from point 3, trying to find that direction. So from point 3, random size, got an arc down here. Make certain they don't move. Spin it around, make a small arc up here. We got our 2 points. Make it bigger because it's a 180 degree line. And find where they bisect each other out on the edge of the sheet, out here. If you recall, don't forget I used the inside 1/2 inch, so that's where I've got to work that from. So these bisected right here, I think, right here, sorry, right there, on down the line. I'm going to run that up there quite a ways, way above and beyond the distance that I have to have. What I'm looking at here is from the base up to here, that should be a 45 degree angle if I've got everything set up just right. The next thing I can do is just simply measure on my 1/2 inch, my additional 1/2 inch that is required for that part. I've already done it down here. I will use the tape measure so you can see that. So an additional 1/2 inch, put a mark here, a little crow's foot, and then up here, way on the other end of the sheet, we'll do that as well with the crow's foot. And then with my ruler, we'll run that straight edge up the line. Now I've got my additional 1/2 inch, just like I've done on the previous sheet when I measured that, and ran that 90 degree up there. The next thing we're about to do then is measure from point 3, which is, point 3 is going to be right here on the sheet. We're going to measure up here 8 inches, which is the same as on the plan, going from here to here, which I've already done on part A. So up 8 inches to establish point 4. Simply pull my ruler out. We'll use 12 inches for right now. Set it on 8 inches down here, mark it at 12, 0, and we've got our distance. And then don't forget, we need an additional 1/4 inch up here for the take up of the lock form, the edge there. So I've just added an additional 1/4 inch on to that point at 12 on both. So let's do the same but of the mirror image here. We've got 12 inches. We need an 8 inch opening. Mark it at 8 on the red, crow's foot, and then an additional 1/4 inch for the lock form. And I kind of wanted that marked on the inside line, so I'll do that too. Really shouldn't matter, but I'll try to keep that straight for you. 8 inches and 8 1/4. Same marks. Just I put it on the inside so they were based off of that point number 4. Once you've got point number 4, I've extended this line when I've drawn this way up here past the sheet. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bisect that 180 degree line, find 90, and bring that off the edge of the sheet. So same deal, dividers or square, whatever you prefer. I kind of prefer the dividers in this situation. My preference is that there may be a little more precise. If you have to, again, some other things you can do is take a Sharpie, and you can mark your original pivot points so you don't get lost on those, but it's entirely your preference. So I was just a little bit too big because my line stopped short. I'll make the arc, flip it around, I'll make the other arc. What's the odds that they landed in both in the same spot? I don't know, but they did. So there, there, and there. And then I'll make my dividers larger because it's 180 degrees. 90, you won't have to do that. That's too large. Set it on my new point there. Determine the arc where they bisect. Right there. Oops, sorry, right there in the circle. From there to there are the two connections that I'm going to make. And we're going to run that all the way off the edge of the sheet. Like that. The last thing I need to do is I've got to add on that additional 1/4 inch to the part. So you can do that with a tape measure by simply measuring it. I'm going to redraw that one because I missed it. I put it on the Sharpie's dot, not the crow foot that I wanted, so it's not going to be, if I do that, it will not be a perfect 45 the way I want. So add the additional 1/4 inch on then, back on track here. This one I already did from the previous project right there. And again, we'll follow up with that last 1/4 inch on the cheek. At this point, I'm just going to put some dotted lines here on my cut marks so you can see these. Follow this around right off the edge of the sheet. I'll do it on both of them, and then we'll commence to cutting this thing out. Okay, so there I have my left hand cheek for the 45 with the 45 degree throat and the 45 degree heel, and my right hand cheek complete, and we're ready to cut this out. So let's go on up to the shear. We'll get the bulk of the material made, and then we'll come back and do the fabrication and the notching and everything that we need to do for that. Okay, here we are back at the shear. basically you can cut this out with the tin snips if you prefer, but I do, if being you got to shear it, will save you a lot of time, and the cuts seem to be quite a bit smoother. You won't be able to cut this corner because it'll get in the road, but you can cut this one, and then just finish the last two up with a tin snip. So let's do that now. Slip it in there where it belongs. Line it up with your marks, checking things out. Make sure you don't get your fingers under it, and then finish the last cut as well. I'm just about complete, just got to finish the inside corner with the tin snips, and we'll do the right hand cheek as well. Again, lining that up inside there on our marks, watching your fingers. With that, you should have nearly an identical left hand and right hand cheek. They should look the same when you flip them over, and it should work out. So let's finish up with the inner throat. Let's go back to the bench. Okay, here we are back at the bench. Now you can use your left hand green and right and red snips there to make these, but I've found with straighter cuts, your larger aluminum snips do a little bit of a nicer job without the divots and everything in the center. So that's just a preference for me. Physically, they'll both cut it out just fine. Getting yourself on those marks. Saving your 1/4 inches. Make sure you don't cut them off by mistake. And we'll do the same with this one here. Alright, there we have the left hand and the right hand cheek for the 45 degree. We got a left hand and a right hand configuration there. Everything should fit up just like it's supposed to. The next thing we need to do is we need to take our notches out of the corners. We got to slit the edge here in the center as well as the back, and then notch the last two corners. So let's do that now. So simply with my 3/4 inch notcher right on those 1/4 inch marks, we're going to knock them out of there on both sides. Same on the other hand, the other cheek, the left or the right hand, however you want to look at this. Okay, they're notched out at this point in time. I got to finish cutting the rest. I suppose you could do some of it with the notcher if you want, or just use your tin snips and then cut it out. Now in the reading, it basically gives you this clock configuration here. It gives you a big long write-up on how to get your angles to find points 10 and 11. I usually like to simplify it just a little bit and just cut out the diamond from my previous marks that I've made on the part. Yeah, it's probably a little more of an airflow or an air gap in there, but generally when I get done with this, these seams are all either going to be taped or caulked and sealed. So I just cut them out of there. Kind of as needed. Okay, in the center, basically it's just a point-to-point thing. You don't have to take a big gap out of that either, because they're going to get folded up. So just find your two center points there and put a slit on them. We'll do the same on this one here. Slit the center, point to point. Make sure you don't cut too far. And the last thing on this one is the diamond out of the external heel. Again, if you want to read into it, it's got a big long write-up of how to get your relief, the points that you need there. So, whoops. At this point in time, I am ready to make my 1/4-inch bends, and that will complete the cheek. So let's do the bigger portions that we can on our leaf break, and then the inner 2 points we will use our seamers for that. So let's do that next. Slip it in our break, find our 1/4-inch mark that we've previously made during the layout. Lock it on there and bend that up to a 90 degree. And we'll do the same, if at all possible, in this corner. Now this one's a little bit tight. If I clamp that down, it'll bend this over. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this around, set it in here in the opposite direction. Got our mark. And then we'll pull that up to a 90 degree as well. Now you can see that this one made a bend, and I kind of did that on purpose. Sometimes what you can do is you can walk to the other end and you can clear that on the hinge when that pulls up, and that won't bend out. But if you do forget, just simply take your seamers here, straighten that back out, and you'll be ready to go. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bend the inside with my seamers, because the brake will get in the road. Just simply put it on the table, lock it on the 1/4-inch, and pull it up to the 90 degree on both of these 45 degree angles. One more time with the other cheek. Pulls it right up there real nice, and it doesn't catch anything. And this will all be taken into account later on with that. So let's finish up our last two internal bends here at 90s for the lock form. One there. And one there. And with that, that will complete our left hand and our right hand cheeks for the project. So, all right, thanks for watching. That has been part 1 of 3 for project, I think it's 17 here, with the 45 degree elbow. Yep, 17, 45 degree angle with the square back and square throat. So we'll catch you on part 2, which will be fabricating the heel and the throat. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you later.